Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Thank you so much to the students of the Khalsa School. I'm so proud of you. That was a wonderful recitation of Shabbat. Proud of the teachers too. Thank you so much. We were delighted to have you. For more than 100 years, Alberta's Sikh community has been a valuable part of the cultural fabric that makes our province a diverse and prosperous place to work and to call home. As we celebrate Sikh heritage, we are reminded their contributions help our province become a more welcoming and inclusive place for everyone. For Sikhs in Alberta and around the world, we celebrate the joyous festival of Vaisakhi. During these challenging times, we hope and pray for a renewed beginning that includes health, happiness, and prosperity for all. This is a night of celebration and reflection. It is now my profound honor to introduce the Honorable Premier Kenny to share a few words with all of you. Thank you.
Happy Vaisakhi, everyone. Vaisakhi Diyan Nagla Padaya. I want to welcome all of you here to the home of Alberta's government in southern Alberta at the historic McDougall Centre. And let me begin with a word of praise and gratitude for those wonderful students from the Calgary Pulse School. Let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you so much, Minister Saniji, and to you and all of those who helped to bring us together, not just to celebrate Vaisakhi here officially as part of the government of Alberta, but also to mark Sikh Heritage Month. And I think it's a perfect reflection of Alberta pluralism that our wonderful master of ceremonies, or mistress of ceremonies, Minister Sani, has organized this together with her colleagues, Associate Minister for Multiculturalism and Immigration, Mohammed Yassin, and Minister for Culture, Ron Orr. So here you have a Sikh Albertan, a Muslim Albertan, and a former Christian pastor organizing to celebrate Vaisakhi and Sikh Heritage Month. I think it's just a wonderful, and I see people in the crowd here. I know from the Muslim, Sikh, and Christian, obviously the Sikh community, but also the Muslim, Christian, and Hindu communities joining with the Sikh community to celebrate Sikh Heritage Month. That's wonderful. Thank you for that. And friends, you know, when we commemorate Sikh heritage in Alberta and Canada, we're really commemorating Canadian history, because the Sikh community has had a presence in Canada, especially Western Canada, for well over 130 years. And a proud history of pioneers, hardworking people who came here at the beginning to work in the West Coast fishery and lumber industries, and then eventually spread west and worked in agriculture, and of course, over the generations have gone on to demonstrate success in every field of endeavor in Canadian society. And it's a chance for us in Sikh Heritage Month to say thank you. Thank you to the whole community, but especially thank you to the seniors and the pioneers who went before. You know, Canada is now a very diverse society, but it wasn't always so. And those earliest Sikh pioneers and South Asian immigrants faced uniquely difficult challenges. And of course, most notoriously, that was reflected in the continuous journey policy of the Laurier government, which resulted in the tragedy of the Komabatu Maru in 1913, which was refused the right to disembark at the port of Vancouver. And ultimately, the passengers returned to Kolkata, where tragedy ensued. We all know that sad history. I was proud to open a monument on behalf of Canada's government in Burrard Inlet, exactly where the Komabatu Maru was moored for several weeks in the spring of 1913. And so while we recognize sad injustices like that, we must also celebrate the great triumph, overcoming prejudice and injustice to carve a future of prosperity equality of opportunity and equality before the law, as this community has done, not just in Canada, but everywhere that it has gone around the world. This is a community, it doesn't matter where I travel in the world, I always come across Punjabis and Sikhs in particular. I don't know why, it's a community that loves traveling everywhere and exploring the world. Everywhere you'll find a Gurdwara, and wherever you find, and I want our Christian friends here to understand, wherever you find a Gurdwara, you will find a langar, which is a community kitchen. And that is a beautiful expression of the Sikh ethic of seva, of service, of selfless service to others, what we might translate into English as charity. And it is a truly wonderful thing to behold that in many of the poorest parts of the world, you will find Sikh charities and religious organizations that have set up langars to share food with the least fortunate. And that was clearly in evidence here in Alberta during the COVID pandemic. I want to say a huge word of gratitude to the Sikh community, all of the organizations, many of which are represented here, the Sikh Society, Ashmesh, and so many more. Well, I'm going to get into trouble because there are probably 24 organizations in this room, dozens in the community throughout Alberta, and every one of them stepped up to the plate to provide support for people who were shut in, who were isolated because of COVID, who flew back home here and had to quarantine. The amount of food and other critical supplies that were collected by the Gurdwaras and the societies and shared is phenomenal. A truly wonderful blessing. Thank you. At the Shemesh Cultural Center, it was the youth. It was the youth who at the beginning of COVID saw the need and stepped up and brought the community together, rallied the community in acts of wonderful seva and service to our broader community at a time of great need. I also want to say thank you, though, to the community for the care that you showed and sacrifice throughout the pandemic, because it was, you know, we human beings are created as spiritual beings and as social beings. I'm so excited, so happy to be here together with you to participate in this spiritual, social, and cultural event, because that's who we are. We're designed to come together in community, in fellowship, and in worship. And so I know it was very painful for your community, like many others, to have the ability to come together interrupted for so long and so often through COVID, that the Gurdwaras and other places of worship were limited in how many people they could accept for congregational worship and other events. The langars were limited, and other community gatherings sometimes were severely limited. This was painful, and let's be blunt, it had an impact on people's mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. I want to acknowledge that. I want to thank those of you who, but in all of the Gurdwaras and the organizations that carefully followed the public health measures as best you could. Well, because I know in the Sikh community, there is a reverence for human life. And you joined together we all did our best over those 2 difficult years to protect human life, while in Alberta we sought also to minimize the impact on the exercise of our freedoms, recognizing that people needed the mental, emotional, and spiritual support of fellowship. So thank you for all of what you did through COVID. But now, here we are, gathered together, and let us hope and pray, please God, that the worst of all of that time is behind us, right? And I believe that not only is the worst of that behind us, but very bright days are ahead. You know, when I look at this gathering, I know many of you are Albertans by choice and not chance. People who chose to build a future here, to leave behind what was familiar, family, friends, property, good lives, in most cases, back home, to take a chance on this often cold, sometimes challenging new country. But I have to say another word of thank you. My theme tonight is gratitude. I want to thank you and your families for having chosen specifically Alberta because you chose the best part of, I think, the best country in the world. Saying that in Sikh Heritage Month, we should celebrate a perfect marriage between the Sikh community and the province of Alberta, because in addition to Seva, there's something else I understand about this community, which is a deep and abiding sense of devotion to family, personal responsibility, and an endless work ethic, often expressed as an entrepreneurial drive. Do you know that new Canadians are 2 times more likely to start a business as someone born in Canada? And I don't have the figures, Minister Sonny, but I wouldn't be surprised if Sikh Canadians are like 5 times more likely to start a new business than native born Canadians. Myself. And that, I mean, I see my friend Bob Dillagy at the back. There's a fellow who grew up, born abroad, immigrated to Canada with his family, came to Calgary, and didn't have anything handed to him, but had that natural entrepreneurial instinct I'm talking about, and managed to apply that with endless hard work over the past 30 years into one of the most successful real estate businesses in the whole country. Congratulations to Bob. But Bob is an example not just of the entrepreneurial instinct of the community, but of the ethic of Seva, because now that he can, he's giving back as he always has, but in big ways. We have a number of friends out here who came up from Lethbridge. I think I met 3 or 4 professors from Lethbridge College, University of Lethbridge, the University of Lethbridge, which is now home to the Dillon School of Business. So, Doctor is such a good example of the success of Sikhs in Alberta in the professions. We truly honored your service as Dean of Veterinary Medicine at the University of Calgary. We are still slightly resentful that we lost you to the University of Saskatchewan as Vice President of Research. But because you built such a great legacy, we've invested, our government is investing $60 million in expanding the veterinary college. Some of the examples of how this community punches above its weight and makes an oversized contribution to our prosperity. So thank you all for joining together. And let me finally say, at this special time of year, that we join Christians just celebrated Easter. Our Muslim brothers and sisters are in the final days of Ramadan. We say to them, Ramadan Kareem, as they prepare for Eid. And of course, our Sikh friends at the same time are celebrating Vaisakhi, the birth of the Khalsa, under the spiritual vision of Guru Gobind Singh Ji in 1699. So we non-Sikhs join with you in the community in celebrating the birth of Khalsa. And let me once again wish you and your families a joyful celebration. I don't know why in Alberta, maybe it's the weather, but the Nagar Kirtans don't happen until several weeks after Vaisakhi. Typically, I'm looking forward to being to some of those throughout the province as you celebrate. So once again, Vaisakhi Diya, Lakh Badaya, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Bole Sohnihat.
Thank you so much, Premier. And if the theme of this evening is gratitude, then let me express on behalf of everybody here our gratitude for your significant contributions to Canada and to our province. It's my pleasure now to introduce my good friend and colleague, Minister of Culture.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I just also want to echo thank you, Premier, Minister Sani, my other colleagues from the legislature, community leaders. We want to recognize you and thank you. And you know, I'd also like us just to take a moment to all the staff from my department and some other departments who have worked all day to get this whole place ready and make this possible. So I think we should give them a round of applause. All of you who have come tonight, thank you very much. This is wonderful, and I'm honored to be here to join you in this celebration I want to wish all of you a very happy and blessed Vaisakhi. It's great to be here in person, correct? Virtual just doesn't do it for me, and I think we're all done with that. But in person, to experience this celebration, to be in the presence of one another, to witness the great sense of community, it's just the right way to do it. That's all there is to it. And I know the last 2 years have been a challenge for all of us, as the Premier referenced. We've all been through unexpected situations, and we've had to make the sacrifices to keep ourselves and our families and our communities safe. However, I also think that the last 2 years have given us opportunity, maybe even been an example of the strength, the resilience, the true character of Albertans. Great challenges call forth great responses, and I've seen that so many times as well in the last 2 years. So thank you for those who have done that. And in spite of the various difficulties, while we've seen many Albertans struggle, we've also seen many Albertans come together in very special and memorable ways. We've had the opportunity to witness the willingness of many Albertans to help those around them. We've also seen the ability of culture, community, and faith to help us find our way through even the most challenging of times. And I think that's certainly true in the Sikh community here in Alberta. Time and time again, I know that you as a community have come together to support not only your own members, but other Albertans as well. And for that, I truly thank you. From giving out free meals as indicated, helping people stay connected, to just being there when people needed to talk, whatever, you've embodied the core values of the Sikh faith, generosity, compassion, and service. And I believe that these are actually some of the core values of Alberta as well. It's who we are as a people, as a province. It's who we want to become even more. And I trust that it will be the values that unite us and strengthen us as a people together. During Vaisakhi, we celebrate the creation of Sikhism as a collective faith, and as the Alberta Minister of Culture, it's also an opportunity for me to thank Sikh Albertans for helping build, both culturally and socially, but also, quite frankly, as the Premier has alluded, economically, very much so. Helping build this beautiful, vibrant province that I, and I'm sure you, are proud to be able to live in. So tonight, I give you thanks for the resiliency, the compassion of this community, and I know that in Alberta, faith and culture will continue to be a source of strength in the months and the years to come as we move ahead. So thank you once again, truly from my heart, for inviting me to be able to participate with you for this beautiful celebration. I always love the music, the food, the culture. Thank you to the school. Thank you to the performers who will perform at the end here. May you have a happy and blessed Vaisakhi and Sikh Heritage Month. Thank you all very much.
Well, thank you, Minister Orr. You are simply the best. And once again, thank you to your entire team who helped put this event together. We're very grateful. It came together very quickly. And what a wonderful crowd to see, to witness this evening. So thank you once again to everybody for being here. Now, I also want to give a shout out to the Shamish Culture Center. I know the Premier has extensively spoken about them, but I want to point out that these panels you see at this end of the room and right behind me were supplied by the Gurdwara. So thank you so much, and please do take a moment to have a look at this one, especially there's some pictures here, and you may recognize family members or friends or neighbors in some of these photos. Now, I also have the honor of introducing my really, really good friend, the Associate Minister of Multiculturalism and Immigration, the Honorable Mohammed Yassin.
Good evening, and thank you, Mr. Sani, for that kind introduction. Sat Sri Akal, Vaisakhi ਦੀਆਂ ਲੱਖ ਲੱਖ ਵਧਾਈਆਂ. I'm so excited to be able to join you here tonight. Tonight's Vaisakhi and Sikh Heritage Month celebration at this Material Center. Vaisakhi may have passed almost 2 weeks ago, but this year's celebration was so special that it should be recognized again. This is the first Vaisakhi for 3 years that we have been able to spend together without masks, and celebrations are so much nicer when you can see one and each others in person and smile. Vaisakhi is a time of shared celebration for all of India. Hindus celebrate it with the solar new year. In the Punjab, it makes the harvest season. And for Sikhs, also, this celebrates the founding of the Khalsa. It is truly multicultural occasion, and as Minister of Social Minister of Migration and Multiculturalism, I am so honored to be able to participate in this event. As an event as rich as Vaisakhi is a wonderful opportunity for the communities to share their celebration with each other while also remaining faithful to their traditions. It also gives all Albertans a chance to get to know their neighbors. Whether you are making a time for renewal, a time of harvest, or a milestone in the development of your faith, I encourage you to take pride and joy in your celebration. By doing so, you are not only strengthening the ties within your own community, but also you're contributing to the diversity that makes this province so great a place to live and work and raise a family. I hope you guys have some the evening. Thank you, and I would like to invite Dr. Baljeet Singh Gill to say a few words. Again, such a pleasure to be here and see many of you that I know them from my previous years in the community. Thank you very much for coming here.
I think the Premier is gone, and for the time being, step out of the room. Minister Lagrange, ML Tour, Minister Or, Minister Yassin, Minister Sani, and councillors and my dear friends in all the communities who are here today. ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੇਰੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਵਿਸਾਖੀ ਦੀਆਂ ਲੱਖ ਲੱਖ ਵਧਾਈਆਂ ਤੇ ਸਿੱਖ ਹੈਰੀਟੇਜ ਮੰਥ ਦੀਆਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧਾਈਆਂ। It is quite a challenge to come and speak after Premier Kenny and the ministers. Premier Kenny has recited the whole history of the Sikhs in this country, so what do I say now? And I also was pretty clear that when he gets to the podium, he's going to point out that I left Alberta, the best province, to go over to Saskatchewan, and he never missed that opportunity. And, but I have seen his career. I believe he is the political leader most deeply engaged with the Sikh community. He has taken the time to understand the community. He has taken the time to understand the needs of the community, and he has put his political weight behind providing support to the community, especially when working with Sikh organizations like the Swedish Cultural Center, led by the current executive, such as led by Sardar Amanpreet Singh Gill and others. Premier Kenny has also demonstrated leadership in very tough times in this province. I think it should be appreciated that the political leadership is not easy, even the best of the times, but to lead during COVID and other challenges is doubly difficult. So I really congratulate the whole cabinet and the MLAs and other elected leaders within the city for doing such a great job in protecting the health of the Albertans and the Canadians. So really a round of applause to you, all of you. As a dean of veterinary medicine, I would stay sleepless during COVID, worrying about the health and well-being of the students and the faculty, and you are looking after the whole province, so I can see what a precious job it was. Couple of points I want to link to what Premier Kenny was saying. He was talking about hostility and the racism against the new arrivals in this country 135, 140 years ago, right around the time when British North America Act was being put in place. But there is a nuanced picture that professors like Holly have shown. That if you look at the photos of those times of the Sikhs in this province, you also see Sikhs raising their families in this province. They are standing side by side with other Canadians, doing the community work and building what we call today as Canada. One of the hallmark of the Sikh value system is that even during tough times, we never lose sight of optimism. We proceed with a sense of resiliency, and we are always calling upon the goodness of the humanity to go through tough times. And that's how we arrive at a future which is right in front of us today. The future that is so compelling in this country that the world is looking up to us and is learning from us on how to build multicultural, inclusive communities and how to fight back against insidious values such as intolerance, conspiracy theories, and racism. I'm so proud of our country that irrespective of the political party, our elected leaders are the first one to speak against any sign of intolerance in this country, and I know William Kenny is always one of the first ones to do so. Sikhs are deeply engaged in thriving numbers with their communities in this country. And this is very important to them because this is one of the core values of the Sikhism to be engaged with their communities. In my profession, I get to meet with a large number of young Canadians from all religious, cultural, and other backgrounds, including those who come from the Sikh families. Whenever I meet with any one of them, my heart is filled with optimism about the future of this country. That this young generation who are growing from a variety of multicultural backgrounds, they are so bullish on this country. If we can provide them with the right kind of political leadership, I think the sky is the limit for them. And the Sikh values do align with that level of optimism and bullishness on this country. And that's why, again, the Sikhs are engaged in this massive project that we call Canada. And the future is bright. Over the last few years, you might have seen many examples where the Sikhs, from all their humility and humbleness, they have stepped forward to provide food during COVID, to fill their trucks and trailers to take them to Fort McMurray during the fires, launched Sikh studies program at the University of Calgary, and participate in creating jobs across this province and in the city through small and large businesses. Premier Kenny pointed out Bob Dylan, a common friend, a shared friend of ours. I mean, he is a shining example as to what he has accomplished in this country, and he cannot wait to give more back to this country because he feels so in gratitude of this nation. I believe we all share in the same value when it comes to a sense of gratitude. Premier Kenny said we left a lot behind, but I think we need to think about what we gained when we came to this country. So I think with this day, with the core values of Sikhism so deeply aligned with what we are trying to accomplish in this country, I really congratulate Minister Sani for putting this effort in celebrating this marvelous event. And I'm so privileged that you give the opportunity to me to speak for a few minutes. So, Vaisakhi Ji Ka Khalsa.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gill, for your kind words. And thank you so much for talking about hope and optimism and a bright future, or what we call being in the state of Chakvikala. This is something that I spoke about in my maiden speech at the legislature, and certainly during the COVID response, which was extremely difficult. It would have been difficult for anybody to navigate through, but these were the concepts that kept us all going. I know that Mayor Gondek was here earlier, and I do believe she had to leave, but I do just want to say a few words about her. Now, she is a phenomenal, powerful woman, the first Punjabi Sikh mayor of the city of Calgary, and incredibly accomplished. And I'm sad she wasn't able to join us, but maybe she'll come back. But let's give her a round of applause. Not speaking about my admiration for her and for all that she has accomplished. I was a fan when she was a councillor in my constituency, and I can tell you she's one of the hardest working individuals in politics that I've ever met. Now it's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Sonia Ojla-Fuller and Tarman Kandola, representing World Sikh Organization, to the podium to share their thoughts and reflections.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਸਾਜਨਾ ਦਿਵਸ ਦੀ ਲੱਖ ਲੱਖ ਵਧਾਈ happy Sikh Heritage Month. I'm very excited. My name is Harman Singh Kandola. I am the VP Alberta for the World Sikh Organization of Canada. We have our president here as well, Tajinder Singh. He's here. I'm joined by my colleague, Dr. Sonia Ojla-Fuller. You know, I was struck when I heard the story by the Premier when he spoke about the incident of the Kamagata. It's something that in this country, you know, we've had politicians apologize for what happened, but I think the important part of that story is to look at a hero that emerged in that story, a Canadian Sikh, Shaheed by Vaisakhi Lopoke. Bhai Lopoke at the time was falsely accused, brought forward as a witness who's been compelled to lie. He was being brought forward by Inspector Hopkinson, who at the time was the main antagonist in the Kamagata story. And by Vaisakhi Lopoke, on the day of trial of I believe it was Vaisakhi, went and he assassinated Inspector Hopkinson. He was quickly then put on trial, he was then convicted, and he was executed. For many of us, for Sikhs in Canada, he is the first Canadian Sikh Shaheed. He stood up for the sanctity of our Gurdwara. He stood up for the rights, and he stood up for righteousness, he stood up for justice. But there's also an important part of that, which is he spoke about in his confession that he was assassinating Hopkinson because Hopkinson had betrayed the values and principles of this country, of those that he had acted and he had represented for. And so I look to those types of heroes when we think about Sikh Heritage Month. And I want to thank this government for organizing this amazing event, Minister Sani, MLA Tur, Minister Orr, Mr. Yassine, the Premier. We're very excited to be here. And I also want to recognize someone in recent history that I look up to as someone who's a hero, especially those at the World Sikh Organization. And that is who was a great friend of mine, the late Manmeet Singh Pullen. Someone that we all remember. Meet that to many of us, and at the World Sikh Organization, you know, he has a very fond place in our heart because he was a rare politician who took up the call of those in Afghanistan, those Sikhs and Hindus who were being persecuted, who were being oppressed, and he took up their call when no one else would. And he worked hard, he worked tirelessly to raise their voice, to ensure that their voice was heard, and he used his platform for that. And you know, now we've seen in the last few years that the legacy of Mita, the legacy of the hard work that he did, and being unapologetic in representing his community. And I think it's an inspiration for all of us today. So the World Sikh Organization, thank you. The World Sikh Organization is an organization that works to promote and protect the interests of Sikhs in Canada and around the world. We advocate for the protection of human rights for all. We've been to the Supreme Court of Canada on numerous occasions to protect the rights of Sikhs and other faiths to freely practice their religion. Currently, we're battling Quebec's racist and discriminatory Bill 21. It was passed in 2019, and it bans the wearing of religious symbols for government employees in positions of authority, such as judges, police officers, jail guards, teachers, principals, and others. That law is both morally and legally offensive. The law sets a dangerous precedent which significantly erodes the rights of women and minority religious communities living in Quebec. One of our own very own board members, Amrit Kaur, has been adversely affected by Bill 21. Amrit is a practicing Sikh and wears a turban as part of her faith. She wanted to be a teacher in Quebec. But after the passage of Bill 21, she was forced to leave her home and move to British Columbia in order to pursue her profession. Now, even though the bill has been insulated from challenge under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms through the use of the notwithstanding clause, the law in of itself is highly problematic. It represents institutionalized discrimination and racism. It creates a second-class citizenship of people who wear identifiable symbols of their faith or the religious attire. And if allowed to stand, Bill 21 will set a dangerous precedent that could forever erode the human rights of minorities in Canada. And the WSO is a party to that legal challenge, and it's a fight that we've undertaken for our community and for all Canadians, for the preservation of the rights and the dreams of future generations. No Canadian should be forced to choose between their religion and their chosen profession, whether in or outside of Quebec. And now we're going to come to a story about here in Alberta. Recently, we at the WSO were approached by several Sikhs who are either existing correctional peace officers or those who wanted to apply to become correctional peace officers. Unfortunately for them, there was a policy that required that applicants seeking to become correctional peace officers needed to be clean shaven. They were told that they had to cut their bodies if they wanted to go and serve. Now, correctional peace officers use respiratory protective equipment to prevent exposure from toxic substances. So when they came to us, we reached out to this government and we asked them, can you consider an alternative that could provide an accommodation to those with facial hair? And frankly, on that call when we had with our Minister of Justice, I was absolutely floored. I was amazed by the speed at which our call was answered. And just a few weeks ago, we were all able to publicly announce that the Alberta government had purchased new equipment to accommodate facial hair. And we were able to, which allowed those officers, regardless of the religion or medical requirements, to work as correctional peace officers. So thank you. Thank you to our Justice Minister, Minister Chandro. Thank you to Minister Sani, MLA Tour, for their tireless work to ensure that Alberta serves as a beacon. It serves as a province that will stand up and will not force you to choose between your profession and your faith. Thank you. It's time that we start to recognize those pioneers in our community. It's time that we start recognizing the shaheeds of our community, the Bai Melasing local case. We start to recognize their contribution and ensure that our Sikh Heritage Month is officially recognized. Thank you.
I don't know what to say after that very passionate speech. Thank you to my colleague, Harvey Goa. Good evening, honored guests, ministers, friends, even family here today. I'm honored to be standing before you as a Punjabi Sikh woman here in the month of April, honoring Sikh Heritage Month. As one of the only women speaking up here today, as the Minister Sani, it speaks to the importance of egalitarianism, a core principle of our faith, our tradition, everything we stand for. And I see a lot of heads nodding because we know that, especially the women in this room. As a member of the World Sikh Organization, the importance of human rights and advocacy for social justice is near and dear to me. It is in my heart because the principles of Sikhism and the values of Alberta, Canada come together as one. In many ways, as you've heard from the speakers before me, this has been an uphill battle, historically and presently. And the recent example that my colleague Armin spoke to, Bill 21, is a key and prime example of this. But we're here today, together in this room, to commemorate and center the contributions, both past and present, of Sikhs throughout this province and in Canada for over 100 years and going into a stronger future. So I would like to now draw your attention to some future of possibilities and opportunities in Alberta. As the mother to 3 children, I often think about the future and what it would look like for them. And if I'm so lucky, maybe my grandchildren one day. My hope is for a future of true inclusivity, where Sikhs are seen for what they are, who they are, and what they can bring each and every day to this beautiful province. We are a people that stand up for the rights of others, especially those most marginalized and facing injustice. To be born and raised here on the traditional Blackfoot territory, the Nitapi people here in Mukintis, also known as Calgary, It is something that I've only come to learn recently in the last decade of the importance of how we have looked at nation building and how we can continue to correct the wrongs of the past for a stronger future, but only possible together. To name oppression and fight against it is not new to any Sikhs, past, present, anyone in this room. So what would this future require of us here in the present? I believe there's two main things that we need to think about. One being Bill 21, because it is a form of systemic racism, systemic discrimination. As a scholar, having my PhD in this work, I want to just reiterate that racism does occur interpersonally. We have all unfortunately had that time where someone has said something to us based on the color of our skin, for what we wear, and unfortunately my own children have had to go through that. I believe Minister Sani, your daughter had to go through that recently as well. But systemic racism is the pattern that is reflected in policies and in laws. And that is an example of what we see in Bill 21. And we may think that we are very lucky not to live in a province that allows for that, and I do believe that. But we also have to know that ideologies don't stop at the border. They don't stop at the province of Quebec, and they don't stop at any borders here in Canada. They permeate in how we think and how we see one another. And that is a future that I do not want for my children or anyone else's children. I do not want them to be seen as an other. I want them to be afforded the human dignity that is enshrined in our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, something that at the World Sikh Organization we are consistently and constantly advocating for, and many of us do in our own day-to-day lives. And the second thing, which I think is key and instrumental to this, is having a curriculum and education that reflects this diversity and this commitment to human dignity. Bringing the lens of diverse communities to all Alberta, we at the World Sikh Organization have been working on a curriculum to bring the lens of Sikhi, both in principles and historically, to all Albertan children. And this government has committed itself to ensuring that that is something that is realized and seen sooner rather than later. We hope that this will be the first and leading example for provinces across this country to emulate in their quest for diversity being truly embraced. As Premier Kenny said, we often punch above our weight. I like that line, because I think we do. We may be a small population, but I don't believe that we are a minority population. We hold up those who are oppressed. We hold the most vulnerable because we know we are only as strong as we are in taking care of them. I would like to see Sikh Heritage Month as something that's ingrained and embedded in everyday learnings and understandings. Today, I was speaking with a parent who unfortunately had to tell me that their grade 2 child is experiencing racism and bullying and came home wanting to rub his skin off so the color would not be there. And this parent told a story that I've heard one too many times as a teacher, one too many times as a parent, and one too many times as a racialized woman here. So how do we correct that? How do we stop that? It's education. It's speaking to ourselves and to each other to afford basic human dignity. Every day, across every school district, across every classroom, because that's who we see each other for as viable human beings in each part of our lives. I'm thankful for MLA Devinder Tour and Minister Rajan Sani, who by virtue of representing the Sikh community, by just embodying themselves here in the provincial government, can speak to the critical importance of anti-racism and education, the curriculum, all those pieces. But we also see all ministers and all of our bodies in government know that it's in our collective actions that we speak and stand up for just causes. To be part of Sikh Heritage Month today is to commit to a future that we have shared understanding of the same thing. A province where future generations, I hope my grandchildren, if I ever get to meet them, can thrive and stand tall in truly seeing themselves as Albertans. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Sanya and Harman, and thank you for talking about a future of possibilities and opportunity We know there is much work to be done. We all know that. We all have our stories of our struggles and challenges that we have faced. But I can assure you that in government, cabinet and caucus is committed to egalitarianism, to diversity, and to inclusion. And we have our Honorable Associated Minister of Multiculturalism here who is actively working on anti-racism strategies as we speak. Now, it's my honor to introduce our next speaker. I do believe he's our final speaker of the evening, my colleague MLA Devinder Tour. He's the MLA for Calgary Falconbridge.
ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਫਤਿਹ ਦੀ ਸਾਂਝ ਪਾਈਏ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ After so many speeches, I don't know, I have so much left, very emotional speeches. But today is the day to celebrate. Today is the day to celebrate not only the Sikh Heritage Month, but the contributions the Sikh community has made. We always learn new things every day. I was in the city hall, there was some kind of a history about Sikhs, and I learned that day because we say that Sikhs came here 125 years ago. Then I learned on that day, the first Prime Minister, McDonald, actually wrote to UK Prime Minister at that time, and he asked for the Sikh army from that part because there was a fear that there can be a war between UK and USA. So Canada asked for the army. Somehow they couldn't come, but the first army came in 1897. The reason for that, they came here to celebrate the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. But that time, Sikhs were known to be the fighters. They were the loyalist fighters in the world. But the thing, and I think the story started from there. As Herman mentioned about Commander Tamaru, we have the stories that the Sikhs fought for the injustice, but they never gave up. Commander was a sad story because at that time, Sikhs were turned away, and it is the story that our future generation should learn. Do not give up. They fought for the justice. We have the issues in the society in these days. So I won't go back and forth because they talk about this. Herman, you raised Bill 21. It's very near dear to me. And as a politician, let me affirm you, silence is not enough. We will stand up. I will speak very loudly about this. If it happens in Quebec, it can happen anywhere. I can promise it won't happen in Alberta, but we will find out so we can stop it right there. It's a discriminatory policy. We always stood for that, and I will stand for this. Politicians who remain silent, I think is the time to ask them the simple question. They need to speak up. This is a wrong bill, and we all need to fight for it. And then I know Premier mentioned that Vaisakhi celebrated either on April 13th or 14th each year, but we have Kirtans across Canada in month of May and throughout every weekend. And this year it will be celebrated in Calgary. I think it's on May 14th and 21st is in Edmonton. Hundreds of thousands of seats and other community members will join this day. This is the time to celebrate. What we celebrate, a lot of people ask me, what are we celebrating? It is the celebration of the contribution of the Sikh community through our political, scientific, culture, social. There is a contribution in every field. We learn so much. I think as a young person, we say, when I was in India, then we were looking for a balance where you can fight and you can work hard and you can expect that nobody will stop you. And Alberta represents this. That's why it attracts a lot of hardworking community members, especially from Sikh community, and then they are building Alberta the place we call it home now. And I'm proud legislature because when I represent there, I learned so much from the values growing up, these are social values and also the religious values. Last few years were tough. They were tough because of COVID. And I can still remember going to the Swiss culture the day we heard that we went to lockdown, and the management of the Swiss culture was very cooperative and they have done a wonderful job. Recently, I got a call from president of the Swiss culture, my friend is sitting here, who's talking about helping people in Ukraine. Not only just here, but think about this community that they're talking about Ukraine. And when Russia invaded Ukraine, let's say, you can see the tanks there in Poland and Ravi Khalsa Age Society, they were there. And you can find there's a natural disaster anywhere, maybe in Pakistan or anywhere in the world, the Sikh community will always show up with their passion. And the values we learn, we learn since 1699, when our Guru, Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji, changed Sikhism to Khalsa. We became Khalsa on that day. It's a winter festival too. This year when I was celebrating Vaisakhi, I was not only celebrating for the Sikhism. I went to, because Tamil Nadu, they celebrate under a different name, Kerala, they celebrate a different name, and I had a chance to go there. It's a winter festival. For us, it is the celebration because Khalsa was born. And Khalsa, the reason was, we belong to that religion, we are doing this. These are the values we are carrying it. I still remember the day I started wearing turban. It was my first day in the legislature. My dad asked me not to give up, keep on wearing. And I can tell you from last 3 years, I am so proud of it. These values to the future generations, that your visibility is like Sikhs are very visible. Like when I was reading it, during World War, they were asking for volunteer soldiers from the world. You know, we say in India there are only 2%. Sikh only constitute 2% of the community. But in the First World War, when you look at the Indian volunteers of the Sikh community, 22% were Sikhs. And they were engaged for Second World War, and they participated in defending Canadian values too. And now we have very successful stories. In this even room, I have a story. My good friend Dwinder there, he might be here, just passing by Gordon. He saw the Sikh temple there. It was not in good shape. They were going there every weekend. Friday, they were going there and coming back on Sunday for after almost more than a year. They built this Gurdwara back. And you name any province, you can find the Gurdwara was built in 1908, 1905. It is a long history. We are so proud of it. And then when I say it's proud of the moment, Sikh community has made so much contribution. And by recognizing this month in the Alberta legislature, I feel so proud because this is the time to celebrate, to say thank you to the community for their contribution in every field. And being part of that community makes me more proud. Minister Sani, Mr. Holt, Mr. Yassi, Premier Left, Mr. Lagrange, thank you very much for organizing this. And I can tell you, when I talk about Minister Lagrange, we talk about choice in education, especially when it is a religious choice. We will Khalsa schools. We have India's Khalsa school, Muslim school, Islam school. We want children to learn the religious values along with their basic curriculum. This is the choice we believe in. She has so much charge when she was putting the curriculum, but I was so confident that she won't leave anybody alone. Everyone will be inclusive. So thank you very much for doing that. So now the time to move on. I think every year we will celebrate Sikh Heritage Month, but it'll be the day. I think we should be celebrating this day every day kind of thing, because this is the time to not only representing the Sikh community, but the other communities at the same time too. This is a very holy month for Muslims. For us, Ramadan is celebrating Ramadan, it was Easter, and this is the holiest month. And again, I won't take too much time, but thank you very much for coming. And Vaisakhi ਦੀਆਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧਾਈਆਂ, and very happy Sikh Heritage Month to all. Thank you.
Thank you, Devinder, for sharing some Sikh history, deeper history as well as recent history. And of course, nobody should stay silent in the face of tyranny, oppression, racism, or discrimination. Politicians and everybody in society alike. So we do have work to do, and we are going to continue doing that work. Now I'm very pleased to introduce Mr. Amanpreet Singh Gill with the Kashmir Culture Center. He actually will be our final speaker because he has done some tremendous work for Northeast Calgary and for the wider community as well in terms of actually visualizing and articulating a vision to bring Seva outside of the community instead of always being inside the Gurudwara. So, is he still here? Oh, there he is. The work that he's done, and he truly is a leader in our community. Thank you.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Thank you, Mr. Shani. Thank you, Mr. R. Minister Grant, MLA Vindatur, our MLA, Mr. Jassi Muhammad. Thank you all of you for managing this event. And entire UCP caucus for hosting Sikh community today to celebrate Sikh Heritage Month and Vaisakhi. My name is Amanpreet Singh Gill, and as the president of the Sikh Culture Center, I'm honored to speak on behalf of the Calgary Sikh community, and I'm honored to speak on behalf of the executive committee of the Sikh Culture Center today to celebrate Vaisakhi. On the day of Vaisakhi in 1699, Guru Gobind Singh Ji inspired us to create a more equal and justful society for everyone. Equality is deeply embedded into Vaisakhi as a core value. A commitment was made on this day to instill fearlessness and bravery to fight and eliminate the social injustice of those times. Let's continue to break down all barriers to equality, like Bill 21. I'm going to share a few words on the contributions of Sikhs to our city, province, and country. The very first settler in Alberta region was Sardar Hari Singh, who came to the Crow's Pass in early 1900s. Through hard work and demonstration and determination, Mr. Singh inspired Sikhs to come to Alberta and settle in cities of Alberta. I take a great deal of pride to knowing that many members of the community are proudly serving Alberta at key leadership roles like mayors, ministers, MLAs, MPs, and councillors. Many Sikh business owners, professionals, including lawyers, doctors, engineers, accountants, positively contribute to our province. The Sikh community adds to the labor force that contributes millions of dollars into the economy through blue-collar jobs that help our economy.
I love hearing from the hard-working families and individuals in the community who own small businesses that employ thousands of the burdens. Thousands of new immigrants, students, and families arrive every year to grow the Sikh community and contribute positively to our province and the cities. I'm pleased to see community around us growing and flourishing since the first arrival of Mr. Vaisakhi. I thank the government for acknowledging Sikh Heritage Month and for recognizing the hard work and contributions of the Sikhs to our city, our province, and our country. We celebrate Vaisakhi because it inspires life of courage, instills social responsibility, influences giving back to the community through seva, and infuses equality into our daily actions. Let Vaisakhi serve as a reminder about this call to action. In closing, the Vaisakhi parade is known as a large, inclusive event in Calgary, and I would like to personally invite you and your families to join us at the Vaisakhi parade on May 14th. We love to serve langar food. As such, no one will leave hungry. And at the end, I'd like to say happy Vaisakhi and thank you all.
Thank you, Amarpreet ji, for highlighting the contributions of Sikh in Alberta and in Canada. And I am the transportation minister, so obviously I have to thank all the taxi drivers and the bus drivers and the South Asian community and the trucking industry as well. Nothing comes here without trucks. So great heartfelt thank you. Now, also to everybody who arrived today from out of town, our friends from Lethbridge, heartfelt thank you for making the trip to Calgary. It means so much to me that you are joining us today. Everybody who joined from Edmonton as well, thank you so much. And of course, we're going to do this every year. As has been mentioned many times, tonight is the night for celebration. And that is why, to wrap up the evening, I'm very excited to welcome the Ashki Bhangra group, who are going to come and do an electrifying performance for us and bring the energy back into this room. Welcome. Wow, that was incredible. Another round of applause for Yasi. I know some of us were tempted to join you, jump in, but thank you so much. Really, really well done. You're outstanding. And this performance concludes the evening celebration. Join us today, and we do have refreshments to my left here in one of the rooms there. So please be sure to grab something to eat, some yummy Punjabi finger food, vegetarian. It'll cap off the evening, and of course, we're still here to linger for a few moments longer. Thank you once again. Vaisakhi Ji ka Khalsa, Vaisakhi Ji ki Fateh.